You want features? Well, the LG G7 has got features. It is stuffed full of features. It's got features blasting out of the wazoo. Lots of these features you probably never even heard of. And here is our in-depth tips and tricks guide of all of the features you need to know about. And if that little intro hasn't already scared you off, then don't forget to give us a subscribe and ding that notifications bell to hear more about the latest and greatest mobile tech like this bad boy. And one of the very first things you're going to want to do when you pick up your LG G7 is get the apps tray activated. It's not activated by default, which means that all your apps are stuffed away here on the desktop, so it gets really messy. So what you need to do is head to settings and then go to the display section. In here you'll find the home screen option. Just give that a tap and then select home, and you'll see it's home by default, but what you want to do is change it to home and app drawer. You can then decide whether to actually have the app drawer icon or not. You can deactivate that if you don't want it stuffed away there at the bottom of the screen, and you can still pull up the apps tray just with a quick flick of your finger up the screen from your desktops, and there are all your apps, nice and tidy, lovely stuff. Next up is one-handed use. Now the LG G7 is a stunning piece of craftsmanship, really nicely designed, but it is a bit of a beast at over 6 inches, which means that one-handed use can be a bit of a struggle at times, to say the least. Thankfully LG has helped out in a couple of key areas. First of all, dragging down the notifications bar can be a cinch. All you need to do is head to settings and go to the display section and then dive into the home touch buttons, and in there you'll find button combination. Just give that a little tap, and then you'll see here you can actually drag on a new notifications button into this bottom row. So just drag that on there like so, and you'll see that it's appeared in the navigations dock. Now basically when you're back in your main desktop, so all you need to do at any point is give that a little tap, and as you can see it pulls down that notifications bar. So if you are using it one-handed, it's just that little bit easier to tap that and then drag down rather than having to reach all the way up to the very top. There's more help on top of that as well. Just dive back into the settings and go to the very bottom of the display section, and in here you'll find the mini view. Now we highly recommend turning this on. All you need to do is just hit that little toggle up top, and then all you need to do once that's activated is basically just swipe across the navigation dock. Sometimes it takes a couple of swipes to get the hang of it. What this does is just minimizes the entire desktops and everything down to the bottom of the screen. You can move it around as so. You can also resize it by dragging on that corner there, and everything including your Google Chrome, your apps, everything you need is minimized in this view, so it's easier to pull down the notifications bar again, and just general use. And when you're done, just tap that X and you're back into the full screen view. Now, if like us you're a bit of a gaming fan and you do a lot of mobile gaming on the go, then we recommend diving into settings, going to general, and then diving down into the gaming section. There's a couple of tools in here that are well worth knowing about. First of all, dive into game graphics, and the games that it's detected should show up there. If you have downloaded a game recently and it's not shown up in there, just tap the little refresh button and then it should pop up. As you can see, it then produces a nice high resolution, high frame rate for those titles when they're loaded. It will dedicate lots of resources to them to ensure nice smooth running. You can even tap into the individual games and manually adjust the resolution and the frame rate if so required. So if it's a quite undemanding game, then we definitely recommend knocking down the resolution to preserve more battery life. I also recommend knocking off this stupid break time thing, because it basically reduces the brightness on the performance after 5 minutes. Let's face it, if you're playing the likes of PUBG, you'll be on there for a good half an hour, so screw that. Also, if you dive into the game tools section, it'll just explain a little bit more about that, but I will show you it in action now. So as you can see, we've started up PUBG and it's loaded up this game tools button in the navigation dock. Now we just give that a quick tap at any point and it'll bring up a small little menu of other options on top of the game. As you can see, you can take a break, again, screw that. You can disable alerts during the game, which is definitely handy, especially when you need maximum concentration. And dive back in there, as you can see, you can also take a screenshot and then also again manually adjust the graphics. So no more pesky interruptions during our PUBG sessions, and also for God's sakes man, put some clothes on. Now the LG G7, of course, like pretty much all flagship phones these days, comes sporting a sexy bit of notch action. We know that not everyone likes the notch, but it is actually fully customizable, so don't go getting your knickers in a twist. What you want to do is dive into display and then head to new second screen. That is what LG is terming the surrounds either side of the notch basically, which displays all of this pertinent information. Now you can have it in a bog standard boring grayscale kind of version like so, or you can have it in a funky rainbow model, which we particularly love, or if you don't really like notches at all, you can just knock it off entirely, so it basically looks like there's no notch there whatsoever. Even if you get up really close, they do a very good job of masking it. So if you don't like your notch, that's where you need to head. Now the LG G7 sports an elongated display. It's a 19.5 by 9 aspect ratio, which a lot of apps still don't support. So for instance, if you dive into Spotify, you'll notice this big, horrible, ugly black bar at the bottom of the screen. What you can do to get rid of that is just dive into the settings and then head to display. And then in there, you'll see this option, app scaling. What you just do is you can tap into that, find the app that's got that horrible black bar and just stretch it a bit. So you can, for instance, do standard mode, compatibility mode. I prefer the full screen mode, which tends to work pretty well. So it basically just crops the edges of the app to stretch it out and give it that nice full screen finish. Of course, if you do find that that impacts the usability of your app in any way, because it does trim a little bit at the edges, all you need to do is head back into that setting and get rid of it. Now, when you switch off the G7 and goes into hibernation mode, you'll notice that the always on display pops up. This just displays the time, the date, and whether you've got any waiting notifications, as well as how much battery life is remaining. You can actually fully customize that by diving into the settings and then go into the always on display section. Here you can see you can actually deactivate it if you want to save a bit of battery life. You can completely configure which one you want. So for instance, you can simply display the calendar, a photo, all kinds of different stuff. You can also make it brighter if you find you're struggling to see it, especially in bright conditions. It can be quite difficult to see because it is quite faint. And you can also set a daily timeout as well to give you a nice bit of peace at night. Now we definitely recommend doing that just to preserve the battery life a little bit. To be fair, the G7's battery life is pretty good, but every little helps. Now one of the many reasons we absolutely adore the LG G7's gorgeous and frankly ridiculously massive display is the fact that it's bright as anything. If you punch it all the way up to maximum brightness, you'll have no problems really seeing it in the majority of conditions. However, if you do find that you do need a bit of extra brightness boost, for instance you're watching a really dark Netflix film outdoors in bright sunlight, then don't worry, LG has you covered with the brightness boost feature. What you need to do is just head into the notifications tab. As you can see, you've got this little bonus mode here. Just give that a little tap and boom, the screen is brighter than the sun itself. Seriously, cover your retinas because this thing is radioactive. Now the G7 has a rather fantastic rear-mounted fingerprint sensor. It's nice and comfy to use and you're basically straight into your desktops with no delay whatsoever. But you can't always use it maybe because you might be wearing gloves, your fingers might be all crusty from working in the kitchen. So what you need to do, head into the settings, go to the general section, dive into lock screen and security, and then set up a nice bit of face recognition. Now this is quick and simple to set up. All you need to do is basically just click on start and then put your face inside the ring. There we go. Just move it around a little bit so it can capture you from all kinds of angles. Make sure you're in a well-lit area as well. And then with that done, you should be ready to use facial recognition. What you can do also is tap improve facial recognition. And as you can see, then go into a darkened room and try scanning your face with and without glasses if you wear glasses, all that kind of stuff. So that just helps it to learn your face that little bit better. And then with that done, you can then simply press the power button and the front-facing camera should recognize you, all things considered, and then unlock the handset straight away with no need to tap that fingerprint sensor. And it works pretty good in low light conditions as well, so we definitely recommend giving it a go. Now the LG G7 is nippy as anything thanks to that Snapdragon 845 chipset. Just makes everything an absolute breeze no matter what you're trying to do. But you might find over the length of a contract that things start to slow down a bit, or maybe if you downloaded a lot of apps, suddenly you're noticing that things aren't quite as smooth as they used to be. So what you need to do in that case is head to the settings and then dive into the general section and then Smart Doctor. And what this basically does is it just manages your storage, your memory, and it can also be used to optimize the phone in general. So if you've got any issues, you can hit diagnose. It tells you that your phone is working fine, all good. If you do need some optimization on the go, just give that a little tap and it will basically clear the cache, get rid of any apps that are cluttering up your memory usage in the background and everything, and get everything all nice and clean and sparkly again. Now sometimes it would be quite handy to have your phone automatically change its default settings dependent on your location. So for instance, when you get to work, you can turn it into silent mode so it's not ringing in the middle of the office and disturbing everyone. When you get back home, you can have it on loud because you might just leave it on the coffee table while you wander off into another room, but you want to still hear if somebody's ringing you. What you need to do is dive into the context awareness section in the general settings. And what this just allows you to do is set up various profiles, as you can see here, at home, away from home, at work, all kinds of stuff, even when earphones are plugged in, and it will change all of the default settings. So for instance, we dive into home, just turn it on, like so, turn on. Agree to all of the usual terms and conditions, as always. And then at this point, you just enter your home address, and then you can set your various profiles. So for instance, you can turn Bluetooth on, and therefore it'll connect to your home speaker and immediately route everything through there. Wi-Fi, you can obviously have it turned on so it can connect to your home Wi-Fi network, things like that. So definitely a handy thing to do. Now, the more keen-eyed of you might have noticed this additional button here on the left edge of the LG G7. You might think it's the power button, but that's actually housed over here on the right edge. What this extra button actually is a Google Assistant button. A quick tap of it and it will load up the Google Assistant ready to use. You can then ask her pretty much anything you like. So for instance, how good is Sunderland Football Club? And a quick flick through and you'll see not really very good at all. You can also actually double tap that Google Assistant button as well, and it will bring up Google Lens instead. So that's quite handy if, for instance, you want to just scan an object that you can then find online for purchasing, or if you're stood in front of a bloody big monument in a foreign city and you want to know what it is, just give it a quick scan and hopefully it'll return good results. It is a bit hit and miss. It probably misses slightly more than it hits, but hey ho, it's worth giving a go just for shits and giggles. Now LG is making quite a big thing of the G7 speaker. You might think it just looks like a puny little speaker grill down here below, but the Boombox speaker can actually put out quite powerful audio. It's impressive stuff. The bass alone out of this thing is impressive. It really rumbles in your hand, and if you stick it on a hard surface, such as a glass table for instance, you can actually feel the bass shaking through that surface. All the same, the likes of rock tunes do sound rather muddy on that top volume level. And so we'd always recommend connecting a dedicated pair of headphones via that 3.5mm headphone jack, and thankfully you can of course fully customize the audio as you would expect as well from LG. Always pays close attention to this stuff. So for instance, there's DTS X 3D surround support. You can dive into there and change up the settings depending on what you're actually viewing. You can even optimize the audio quality of your tracks using this hi-fi quad DAC effort, which even allows you to change the balance between left and right outputs. The level of customization on offer is pretty impressive, so any audiophiles should be satisfied. And last of all, of course, the LG G7 sports a very smart AI-led dual lens camera here on the back, and the camera app is absolutely stuffed full of funky features, but we'll be doing a separate in-depth camera tips and tricks all about the G7, so stay tuned for that. So that's just a selection of some of the best features stuffed inside the LG G7 and stuff you'll definitely need to know about if you're going to pick up this great premium flagship phone. Let us know what you think in the comments down below. If there's any tips or tricks that we've missed off that you think are particularly good, give us a heads up. Don't forget to hit subscribe and ding that notifications bell for more on the G7 and the latest and greatest mobile tech. And thanks for watching. As always, love you!